YouTube, Awesome Writer here. Welcome to my review for the latest in the Power Rangers Unlimited series. This in particular story focuses on the backstory of Andros and the In-Space Rangers and Zane, primarily Andros though. If you don't know, the Unlimited series effectively act as these one-shot issues that delve further into characters and lore, but they will have a connection to the ongoing main comic series. However, you do not have to be familiar with it to read this. You can read this one as well as the previous two entries without reading any of the main comics. If you are reading the main comics, it does enhance the current story and it does tee up some things, but you could read this without even knowing about any of the main storylines in the current series and enjoy it perfectly. So if you're wondering about that, you can totally read this and you have no obligation or need to read the current ongoing series. So, this issue, as I said, focuses on Andros' backstory. It's a much more detailed and enhanced version of the story. We know the cliff notes, young Andros and Corone grew up on KO-35, she was kidnapped, Andros ends up having a driving force to find her, he becomes the Red Ranger alongside Zane. Zordon recruited them at one point or another, it's assumed they're connected to Zordon, but we just kind of know the vague details. Now, something that was revealed in the main comic, which you do not need to know to enjoy this, but it was revealed that Zordon was helping KO-35 in general with effectively a Ranger program, and as such, the in-space powers and much about them existed before Andros and his team, as we do meet one of the original in-space teams. I'm going to presume they're the first ones, maybe, who knows how long it's been going on. There could have been 10 people to wear the mantle of the Space Rangers, but we meet the first or the earliest known space team in this one, as they wind up rescuing Andros and Zane after the inciting incident in which Corone is kidnapped, and they sort of take Andros and Zane in alongside all these other orphan kids and raise them on the Astro Mega ship, telling them tales of Rangers past and all that. And in particular, the Pink and Blue Rangers, who are a married couple, sort of raise them as the sort of adoptive parents until Andros and Zane wind up going to the academy, like the military academy on KO-35, to learn how to fight and all that stuff. And then after they graduate, Zane is selected by his former adoptive family to become the Silver Space Ranger. Something of note is, right now, he is using a classic Astromorpher to transform. I don't think that's a mistake at all. I think there's going to be a bit of an origin there. It appears that in the main comic, Zane may be waking up earlier than expected or something, but I get a feeling that in the main comic or possibly in a follow-up issue, we will find out why he uses a different morpher. I actually personally really like that because we rarely get an explanation as to why the Six Rangers' powers are often different than the main teams, both in Sentai and Power Rangers, and I think it's kind of cool that they actually want to explain that. I would honestly read an entire one-shot graphic novel that's just called Why the Six Ranger Morphers Are Different, and just go through every Six Ranger and explain, like lore-wise, why they're different than the rest of the team. Point is, I actually kind of like that. It's kind of a fun little nerdy lore bit. Zane then wants Andros to join him on the team, but Andros isn't ready because, after all the years of learning about Power Rangers and what they do, even though he's a good person and has a drive to protect others, he feels like his desire to find Corone is going to hold him back, both because he feels it's too selfish of a desire that he has that would stop him from putting others first, but he also feels if he becomes a Ranger, then he would lose Corone in the shuffle. So then we follow their converging paths for us. Brief montage of like a panel, Andros continuing to investigate Corone's disappearance as Zane becomes a Ranger with In-Space Team 2.0, his new friends, new family, until Zane comes to Andros saying, look, I got a lead about Darkonda. He's about to do to another planet what he did to ours and steal some kids. And so Andros and Zane team up to take on Darkonda and stop him from taking more kids just like he did with them. And that's kind of a point of convergence for Andros, where while they're in this conflict and where Andros gets poisoned, he sees a toy in this area where these kids were being attacked that reminds him of the toy that he and Corone were playing with when she was kidnapped, which I think kind of reminds him or makes him think about, if I become a Ranger, I can stop this from happening to other people. Like, of course he wants to find Corone, but I could find a purpose here in stopping this from ever happening to anyone else as a Ranger, and that's when he finally steps up and takes the morpher that Zane offers him and becomes the Red Space Ranger. Now, something else worth noting, when he transforms, he shouts out, "It's morphin' time," rather than "Let's rock it." It's possible this was a flub. I'm also going to leave room open, though, that there might be a bit of an origin there. It might seem like an unnecessary or stupid thing to some people for there to be an origin, but I wouldn't mind if there is somehow an origin for why they say "Let's rock it." I think that would actually be kind of neat. I I like little details like that sometimes. I'm just going to point it out. It is also possible it was a flub. If it is, who cares? But after that, we find out Andros and Zane then joined the team together and had a bit of a happy time together in Space Team 2.0, of course, until the Darkonda Nation attacked. What's the dude's name? Dark Spectre Nation attack. There we go. And we find out that in that attack on KL-35, the rest of the team died. You know, obviously in the show universe, it was only shown that it was Andros and Zane. Zane was injured, but in this universe, it was a full team, and all of them were killed one by one during this invasion. And of course, Zane was injured and put into stasis, and then the megaship got stolen from Andros. And we leave off Andros trying to find the megaship again, kind of stranded, as Zane is on there. And that is actually where we pick up his story in the comic. Again, you do not have to read the comic to enjoy this. You don't even have to read anything after this, but basically where we leave him at the end of this issue is right where we pick up with him in the main Power Rangers comic. It's him sort of wandering around, and he's trying to find the megaship. Now, what was that lore detail and connection that I was talking about for the comic? Well, in the upcoming comic, there is an upcoming unlimited one-shot, as well as an upcoming main storyline in the current comic, primarily the Power Rangers comic as of right now. I don't know if it's going to crisscross with Mighty Morphin or how much. I think it will because of the 100th issue, but regardless, there is an upcoming story about the Death Ranger, who was one of the original Omega Rangers, the Gold Omega Ranger. And at the end of one of the current issues, Andros just recently freed his morpher, and we get some backstory as to why Andros freed his morpher. As when they were learning lore bits when they were children, they talk about legends that the Gold Omega Ranger's morpher or powers could restore the dead, you know, hence Death Ranger and all that. So that literally is kind of the only thing, other than the fact that we leave Andros in the same place we meet him in the Power Rangers comic. That's literally the only lore detail. Everything else you just kind of connect character-wise by what he's going through, because his character is a lot about all he's lost. You know, he lost his family, his sister was kidnapped, he finds this new family in the Ranger team, he loses them, and there's a lot about loss, dealing with the whole necromancy element of Death Ranger. You can kind of connect the dots and see that's what's driving Andros to free the morpher in the main comic, as he's going to want to try to use these powers and this alliance to bring back somebody, if not everybody. I don't know whether he's going to try to bring back his parents or his old team or literally everybody, but it's definitely interesting. I really enjoyed this issue. I really love the parts of the comics that will delve deeper into a more rich version of characters and lore that we know. And I like that this can be enjoyed just standalone. I think it was a lot more of an interesting, thought-out version of Andros' backstory that had a lot of depth to it. I loved the backstory lore about the multiple generations of Space Rangers, and I just liked it for that, but I also liked the connection to the main comic, because it doesn't feel forced. It does have a thematic connection to it, and it really is going to enhance the story going forward, and I really like that. And I think that's really cool that they're doing that with the Unlimited series as a way to sort of kind of take a break from, you know, just the MMPR story and do a one-shot backstory, but it also will enhance the current story, and I think that's really neat. I would love to one day get some stories like this about other series that don't necessarily have to connect, just because it would be hard to always connect it. Like, I can't imagine, I mean, I guess it depends on what story they're doing at the time, but I can't imagine doing like a Carter Grayson focused issue and then forcing it to connect to whatever's going on with the comics. So I would love for us to be able to have ones like this that do more directly connect to something going on, but then have other one-shots. And, you know, reading this issue and seeing that there was multiple iterations of the Space Team before the one we know, I would love to see a backstory issue on the Lost Galaxy powers, because it's obviously very heavily implied that at minimum one other group took up the mantle of the Lost Galaxy powers. I think they were even toying with the idea of doing it in the show at one point. So I would love to see an issue that would delve into the history of the Lost Galaxy powers in the future. I think that's pretty neat. But I really like this. If you're a fan of In Space, I can definitely recommend it. I would give it a 4 out of 5. As I said, you do not have to have any knowledge of the main comic to enjoy this. Like, basically, you're only going to notice the connections if you're reading the main comic. Otherwise, it's a It's a nice, self-contained In Space backstory. But anyways, guys, that's about it for this one. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you can get the notifications for my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.